Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran Cameron Dollar. Cameron, how are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Cameron, let's go back to the beginning. How did you get started in mixed martial arts?
Back in the day, out of high school, I was dating a girl, actually, and her and I were having problems, and this other dude came into the picture, and I was supposed to get into a street fight with him, and it didn't happen. And then, like a few months later, I heard his name on the local radio station. They were like, hey, Friday night fights down at this club here in Colorado. They're like, come check out the local bad boy, blah, 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 blah. And I heard his name on the radio, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm going down there to sign up to fight this dude since I can't fight him on the street, you know what I mean? I'll fight him in the cage. And I signed up, but he was like 2 weight classes heavier than me, so they didn't let us fight. But I fought anyways, you know what I mean? They put me against somebody my weight. And then I just stuck with it ever since, man. Really enjoyed it, you know?
So, I mean, you wrestled growing up, but you had no training to this point, or had you started training and you just signed up out of the blue?
I had no training. I just signed up out of the blue. Like, I had wrestled in high school. It was like right out of high school, you know. I wrestled since 6th grade. But yeah, I went into the fight with just strictly wrestling and, you know, street fighting skills, I guess you could say. And I went in there and I took the dude down and sat on top of him, you know, and just punched away, and that's how I won. And then people were like, oh man, what do you train at? I was like, train? What do you mean? Like, I just came in here off of pure hatred and, you know, like just aggression against this guy. Like, I didn't know this was something that you train for, you know what I mean?
Right. Had you ever seen MMA on TV before, or was this just completely new to you?
You know, it's funny you ask that, because, like, I had never, like, when I was younger, when I was real young, my uncle used to watch me, and, I'd stay over at my uncle's house, and he would always get the old UFC pay-per-views, you know, with Enzo Gracie and, you know, the Shamrock brothers.
Sure.
You know, all the Dan Severn, all the older guys and stuff, and my mom would get so pissed off, she'd be like, don't you let him watch that barbaric fighting stuff or whatever. Like, Cameron, you're not allowed to watch that, you know? And when my mom would leave, my uncle would let me watch it, and then it was weird. I didn't even know that it was UFC that I was doing. You know what I mean? Like, I was just fighting, and then people were like, "Yeah, man, you should train." And then I started watching the reality TV shows, and I was like, "Oh man, this is that stuff I was watching when I was way younger." You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Now your original. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, and then I just started fighting. You know, I just kept fighting from then on.
You're originally from Arizona, but now you're living in Colorado. Did you make the move to Colorado to train MMA?
No, I didn't, man. I used to get in a lot of trouble. I didn't have, like, the best relationship with my mother when I was younger. Like, my real father lives in Colorado, and all my family and everybody else lives in Arizona. And, like, when I was younger, I just got in a lot of trouble, and didn't get along with my mother, so I came out here to live in Colorado, finish off my senior year of high school, and live with my father out here.
Now, your gym, Fight Factory, is that your day one gym, or were you training somewhere before that?
No, my day one gym, like, I started with a local gym here in Colorado called Congo Dough, and then I started going to another gym. It was called Team Agogi. And then I've been to like 3 different, like, started from, it was like all like the same people, but we all went, like, we kind of all followed each other to different gyms, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then now I'm pretty much at American Top Team. It's American Top Team Prime, owned by Bobby Lashley. But, you know, home of Team Fight Factory. The guys that pretty much started all together, and then now we're just owned by Bobby, kind of. So, yeah.
I see. Cameron, you were on Ultimate Fighter Season 9, United States versus United Kingdom. What was that experience like?
It was awesome, man. It was cool. You know, I just learned a lot about the sport, and it was a real neat experience to hang around, the upper echelon of guys, and like Dan Henderson, he's top contender, and just like to see the mindset of those athletes, and the guys that are in the top rankings and whatnot, to see how they go about everything is a neat experience.
Mm-hmm. How was the training with Dan Henderson? How much did you learn from him?
The training, it's funny because I'd say the training wasn't really, it was almost a little too much, you know what I mean? Because you're training 2 times a day, and you're that's all you're doing is you're going in there, and then you could be fighting, every 3 days. So it's like, I don't know, it's kind of crazy because everybody's trying to go gung-ho, and everybody's like mindset is like, oh man, I want to impress this guy, or I want to look good in front of the cameras, or the coach or whatever. So they're just going, balls to the wall. But really, you just want to get through the show, man, with like the least amount of injuries you can, and just stay healthy in the house, because when you're in a house with 16 dudes, there's all kinds of skin infections that go on, and crazy stuff. One person gets sick, then all of a sudden the whole house is sick. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you just really want to take care of yourself and get through everything with the least amount of problems as possible. But yeah, man, being on the show was real cool. Learned a lot of things, and it was a neat experience.
One thing I wanted to ask you about the training was, when you're in there training with these guys that you could potentially fight, you ended up fighting someone who was a teammate of yours, but when you're in there, are you kind of cautious about going 100% or showing your teammates everything you have, or do you not worry too much about that when you're training with those guys?
No, when you're on the show, you definitely want to, when I was on the show, I was like, man, I didn't know, because you watch some of the UFC shows and they got crazy twists, you know what I mean? They bring this person back that lost, or, like you said, I had to fight my own teammate in the finale, you know what I mean? I thought that any one of the guys could potentially be a potential enemy, you know what I mean? So
right.
I would definitely go hard with the guys that I were on my team, just to show, hey man, if it does come down to me fighting you, then I'm already dominating you in practice. Don't think you're going to beat me in the fight. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That was my kind of mentality.
Right. Some of the guys that were on the U.S. team that you said they actually got along better with the U.K. guys than they did with the U.S. guys. Did you get along with the U.K. guys?
The U.K. guys, I really didn't start talking to them or even forming a relationship with them until the last 2 weeks of the season, and because by then you already knew whether you're who you're pretty much going to fight, because of everybody that had already lost or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
So then I could let loose and know that, hey man, I'm not going to potentially be fighting this guy or whatever. But yeah, there was some guys on our team that were definitely better friends with the UK, and it was pretty gay, because they'd be in our gym at practice watching us, and then they would go and tell the UK guys what we were training for, or if somebody had injuries,
right,
in the gym or whatever, they'd tell them about that person's injuries or whatever. It was kind of retarded.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that you have seen the show before you were on the show, but was there anything that caught you off guard, or anything that you thought was going to be very bad and then it turned out to be not that bad? Was there anything that surprised you about being on the show?
No, not really.
No?
The only thing, not really, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that I can really think of.
Okay.
It was everything, I thought everything was real, it was all real reality TV, nothing was scripted or anything,
right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, I thought maybe that, Browning, Junie Browning's little brother would have gotten in more trouble in the beginning when he started launching those eggs and stuff in the UK.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, there's not too much, you know.
Mm-hmm. I see. Cameron, what's the best and what's the worst part about being in the Tough House?
You know, the best part was just the experience, and you know, to say you were able to do that, you know, like, because there's not very many people that, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of seasons, but given all the people in the world, and to be a part of something that to that extreme of, you know, the UFC being the biggest promotion in the world, and then being on the show, it's pretty cool, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cool achievement, but I definitely want more, you know. I want to be back in the big show and show that I'm you know, able to compete and be with, you know, that caliber of guys and put on a good show. But, you know, I don't know. If you're on the show, you better make it to the finale. Otherwise, you know, you're only as good. You're only good to the UFC if you're winning. You know what I mean? And you got a good crowd following you.
Right.
So, yeah.
During your time on the show, you had a quote-unquote beef with Jason Dent. Was that just the product of being locked in a house with him, training with him all the time? Was that just more of you guys getting on each other's nerves because you're around each other all the time? Or was there a genuine dislike between the two of you?
Oh no, man, there was a genuine dislike. You know, I really hated that guy. Still do hate him. But, yeah, he was just a total tool, you know, like, from day one, like the first day we moved in there, into the house, like all the tap out guys, you get all kinds of like tap out clothes and tap out shoes, you know what I mean? You got all kinds of gear and stuff, and like everybody gets it, you know what I mean? They get shoes for everybody and clothes, everything. So like we all get in there and we're in our rooms or whatever, and like he claimed that somebody stole his shoes, that somebody stole his tap out shoes, and he started pointing the finger at me, like, right off the bat, like, man, I know you fucking stole my shoes, blah, 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 this and that. And I was like, dude, I didn't steal your shoes, bro, you know what I mean? Like, what would I do with your shoes? He wore, like, a size 12 or size 13, had a big old jalopy Ronald McDonald foot, you know what I mean? Okay. And I wore a size 9, and I was like, dude, your shoes wouldn't even fit me, bro, like, why would I steal your shoes? And he's like, whatever, man. He just started talking shit to me like he was going to beat me up or whatever. He took off and he went to his room, and 5 minutes later he found his shoes in his room, you know what I mean? He just didn't know where he put them, you know?
Right.
And he didn't even come back or apologize to me or nothing. And then, like, you know, as you watch the season later on the show, he just becomes friends with, like, the UK guys and that Jason Pierce dude, and then they're just like, you know, there's some of the guys that are telling the UK guys everything about us, you know, and just, it's real whack, you know. And then Jason Pierce, he pussed out and didn't even fight his fight, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he just pretty much quit. So, yeah, it was nuts, dude. But yeah, I really hated that guy. Total douchebag.
I've got to ask you, what stung worse? Was it the fact that you lost to him, or was it that you weren't going to continue on and the UFC released you after that finale?
Damn, dude, that's kind of a harsh question.
I'm just curious. Because you said that you don't really like this guy, so I just thought that it was fitting that it would come out.
Yeah. Nah, dude, you know, both of those experiences really freaking sucked, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, it was pretty bad, because if you followed the season or you followed the show, you know, and watched us and whatnot, and watched the finale, I was totally beating Jason that entire fight. You know what I mean?
Right.
Totally went in. I was beating him on the stand-up, everything, and then, like, I just got overconfident and cocky and shot in sloppy, because, you know, I come from a wrestling background, and not being, you know, more experienced and more relaxed and laid back in the cage, you know, in the limelight. You know, I went back to my roots and was thinking, oh man, shoot in for the takedown and secure the win, you know what I mean? Because there was like 20 seconds left in the first round, and then he just sprawled and caught me in that, you know, that Darce choke, and choked me out with like 5 seconds left, and I didn't even realize. I knew it was short time, you know, but I didn't know it was that close to the bell ringing, and yeah, I tapped out, you know. And then on top of that, the UFC released me, so that was even worse. You know what I mean? But then, like as I was released, I see guys back in the UFC like Tom Hayden, Waylon Lowe, these guys that were on the same season that I was on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they're already back in the UFC losing fights. Like I beat Tom Hayden to get into the house. You know what I mean?
Right.
And be on that show. And he came out here to Colorado and fought out here on that Frankie Edgar and Henderson card, you know. And I had talked to Sean Shelby about trying to possibly get on that card or get on, you know, one of the shows, and he was like, "No, man, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, this and that." And then all of a sudden, I see Tom Hayden as like the first fight, and it was kind of sickening, you know what I mean? It was kind of upsetting, but yeah, man, I'll just keep fighting and getting these wins and doing what I got to do to win, you know what I mean? And trying to keep a following and have fans and, you know, doing interviews like this and whatnot, and, you know, keep working to make a comeback and get back in the big show.
You've turned it on since then. You're 7-2 since that loss. What's changed for you? Is it just that you've learned from that fight and you've been able to get better, or is it just getting more experience in? What do you attribute your success to now?
You know, I definitely contributed to the coach that I'm with now. Like when I was on the show, I had only been training with my coach, Drew Lawrence, for like two months before the show. And, you know, I made it as far as I did in the show just off of, like, you know, pure athleticism and my wrestling background and just being in a couple of scraps, you know what I mean, amateur scraps and stuff from back in the day. And, you know, now I definitely know how to train like a champ, you know, take it seriously, diet, cut weight. I'm fighting 45 now instead of 55, which I truly feel is like a huge help and a big benefit to me, you know what I mean?
Right.
I'm built just like Jose Aldo, about the same height, same length, everything. Like you know, I just got more leverage on my opponents and more reach and everything. And you know, I've seen that I'm capable of competing with the top of the top. You know, I've trained with those guys. You know, Frankie was out here training for that Henderson fight. You know, I've been around these guys and seen, you know, what they can do, and I know that I'm capable of the same thing, you know. So I'm just definitely taking it a lot more seriously. And when it comes down to it, it's all I got. You know, I didn't go to college or nothing. Don't really have a career besides this, so better make the best of it, you know. Take it seriously.
Are you a full-time fighter, or do you have another job?
You know, I was working, and then, you know, I quit working after I signed this contract with World Series of Fighting. So yeah, I'm just a full-time training fighter right now. But I've pretty much been a full-time training fighter for a while now too. You know, like I'll work every now and then, but I don't, you know, really carry a consistent job. It's pretty much training and getting money wherever I can.
I was looking at your record, and I'm pretty sure that you're undefeated when you fight in Colorado. I'm pretty sure. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but why do you think that is? Do you think it's because you're from there and you don't want to let the home crowd down? Is it when you're in front of your home crowd that motivates you? What do you think is the reason why you're so successful fighting in Colorado? Is it the high altitude? You know, what is it?
Oh, yeah. I definitely feel like training in Colorado is one of the best places you can train, for sure, you know? Especially with the high altitude and everything, because your cardio is key, you know. Cardio is how you win fights, and that's one thing that we really hit on hard at our gym is cardio and being able to go, you know, like, yeah, you may be fighting, you know, 3 rounds or whatever, but you should be trained and ready to go, you know, 5-5s, whether you're fighting a 5-5s, you know, 5-5 rounds or not, you know, you should be prepared and be ready for that. And yeah, man, I just definitely, you know, I definitely love the hometown, love the crowd. Like, I definitely want to represent for the hometown. Well, you know, Arizona's where I'm born and raised, but I train in Colorado Springs, and I definitely want to represent, you know, where I'm from and the people I train with. And, you know, it's kind of and talk about it and be about it, talk about it if you can't be about it, you know what I mean? So you better be able to represent and throw down and be able to kick ass,
Right.
So you got to take this seriously.
Right.
Otherwise, people just look at you like a fake, you know what I mean?
Right. Early in your career, you were knocking all these guys out. Now you've developed into a submission guy. And when did that whole transition happen that you've just fallen in love with the submission game?
It's funny that people kind of say that because, to be honest with you, bro, I don't, I do jiu-jitsu, I do roll around and stuff, but I would say I focus a lot more now on my stand-up than I do my ground game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, it's just funny because, I haven't really been able to showcase my stand-up in any of my fights yet. I got to a little bit with my Tyler Toner fight, you know what I mean? I jacked him with a pretty good right and dropped him. But, man, I love the ground, too, you know what I mean? So if it goes to the ground, I definitely feel comfortable on the ground with, a lot of people, just because, the concept is, I understand the concept of the ground and I understand the rules, you know what I mean, as far as guard and passing guard and just keeping dominant position. And to be honest with you, I truly feel jiu-jitsu is kind of going to become more obsolete as the years go on because it's going to be harder to submit somebody. It's going to be harder to do submissions than it is chokes. Mm-hmm. And if you watch most of my fights I win by, rear naked choke or, triangle choke.
Or a flying triangle choke.
Yeah, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could be trying to go for an arm bar, but if my other arm's free, I'm just going to be jacking you in the face as hard as I can, or doing whatever I can. Eventually you're going to let go or squirm or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
But, yeah. I hope I answered your question pretty clearly.
Yeah. Do you go into your fights with a game plan, or do you just go wherever the fight takes you?
We definitely, my coaches and I, Drew Lawrence and I, and the guys I train with and stuff, we got a wide variety of guys and a different, different caliber of dudes, we got real tall guys, lanky guys, we got short guys, we got guys in all the weight classes, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And guys that are super skilled wrestlers and guys that are just, got pure brute strength and guys that, are way better boxers and whatnot. We got everything up here in Colorado, especially with the OTC being up here too,
Right.
We got the best of the best in each sport. So it's really nice, training here because we can, if we're going up against a wrestler, you know what I mean, we can find a good wrestler to go in there and, be shooting takedowns on us while we're sparring and whatnot. And box, if we're focusing on a stand-up dude, we got more boxers we can work with and everything else. And, we definitely study our guys, study our opponents and go in there. At first, we got somewhat of a game plan, but at any time, things can change, you know what I mean, in a fight. So you just got to be prepared, man. You got to be, well all around and know that you definitely train, harder and stronger than your opponent going into that fight and whatnot, and just be confident and believe in yourself, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, your nickname, Money Man, I'm just going to assume you got this nickname just because your last name's Dollar, and I'm also going to assume you've had this nickname long before you were ever a fighter, right?
Actually, no.
Oh.
I didn't. I did get the nickname because of my last name.
Right.
But, no, I got the nickname when I started fighting. They started, I didn't even know that, really realize that they gave fighters nicknames like that and whatnot. And when I first signed up, it was with a promoter named Brian Lee, who started doing some of the, the first local scene fights here in Colorado Springs. And that's just the nickname he gave me, and I've stuck with it ever since then, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Cameron Moneyman Dollar. Which I don't know, it fits me because of my last name, but it sure as hell doesn't fit me in real life because lately I've been broke as hell, man. So. Yeah.
Yeah. October 13th, you were supposed to have a fight. Is that fight canceled just because of the World Series of Fighting deal that you signed, or was it your original opponent, he backed out? Why is this fight canceled? Excuse me.
The show isn't canceled. The October 13th show isn't canceled. But yeah, I had to pull out. I didn't have a contract signed for that October 13th show yet, and I got offered the contract for the World Series of Fighting promotion, and you couldn't fight 30 days within each other. So they said that the only way they'd sign me or take me on the promotion was if I didn't fight in that event. So I had to back out, and supposed to be fighting November 3rd. But yeah.
For that November 3rd show, some of the websites say that you're going to be fighting Waylon Lowe. Is that correct?
Actually, it was. I don't know. That's kind of a touchy subject, But
sure.
We'll just say, I had to pull out of the October 13th fight card because I was supposed to fight November 3rd, but due to for personal reasons, I guess you could say, I won't be fighting until January 26th.
Oh, so their next show. I see.
Yeah, till their next show.
Okay. Well, Cameron, I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. Real quick, before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you would like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
I'd like to thank Rockford Fosgate. If anybody here locally, from watching this video or interview or whatever, you're local in Colorado Springs, you're more than welcome to come down to American Top Team Prime, train with us, check it out, you know what I mean? And thank you for the interview and, the exposure and whatnot. And thank you to all the fans that have been following me and helping me to get to where I am now. Thanks for the opportunity, man.
Cameron, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.